So if you remember, the beginning of the year I did a Basics of Science of Mind series. And it went over really well because it anchored people in what it is we teach. So I decided then that I'm going to start a new series based on the book called Living the Science of Mind. So it's about how do we make this teaching that we talk about here more practical. That's what it's really about, because if something is not practical, why do it? Why do it? Why watch things that are impractical? It's interesting, Gene and I have been watching this series on Netflix called Wild Wild Country. And it's a story about this spiritual leader, Osho, who was, he was Osho, but he was also Bhagavan Sri Rajneesh. And it was about starting this cult. It was called a cult in Oregon, where they bought like 89,000 acres and they bought this city. And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but what was fascinating as I watched this documentary and realized documentaries are through the perspective of who's doing it. The documentary was always about conflict. Conflict between the people of the clan and the people outside. The people of the city that was right there, the people of the county, the people of the state, and then the people of the nation. And this went on in like the early 1980s, and Gene and I are reflecting back, we don't remember anything about it. But the thing that struck me as I watched it, never once did I hear about practical spirituality. I did not hear about them sitting in meditation as a collective group. I didn't hear about them setting an intention about doing spiritual mind treatment, affirmations, or using the law toward a specific purpose. I didn't hear those things. And then when the whole thing blows up, I said, of course. It had to. Because it wasn't centered in truth. That's what I come back to. Our lives blow up outside of what we can deal with when we're not doing a practice, when we're not tapped in. And so today, we're going to be exploring the power of spiritual mind treatment. For those of you that are new, spiritual mind treatment is another word or set of words that mean affirmative prayer. Okay? Affirmative prayer in our terms is never about asking and beseeching. We're not asking a power outside of ourselves to come into our lives and take over and guide us. No, we're not doing that. What we're declaring is that there is a power within us that is this universal power, and when we tap into that power, it creates from the inside out. So we are no longer victims, but rather we are the creators of our individual life experience. That's what I really want you to understand. Spiritual mind treatment is about directing the law or the power that we identify with the creativeness of God toward a specific end. You can do that in many, 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 many ways. But when Ernest Holmes was putting together the science of mind, he found that when he did this type of prayer, spiritual mind treatment, he had phenomenal results. And it was taught that you could repeat this over and over again, so it became scientific. Because if you can take something and you can duplicate it, and someone else can duplicate it, and it works based on certain things, then you've got something that's a useful tool, don't you? So we're going to go on and we're going to look at it. Ernest Holmes said this: we believe in God. And remember, when he's saying God, he's also talking about infinite mind, spirit, divine cause, first cause, universal spirit. There's all these names that we can use to call God. And he says, when we believe in God as the infinite spirit permeating everything, meaning it is infinite, therefore everything is it expressing, and it is present in all things. We believe that there is a law of mind, the law of mind which responds to the nature of our thought, faith, and conviction. In other words, the law, when Ernest Holmes repeats, when he says the law, it's about that aspect of the divine that creates. And he tells us really clearly, it responds to our thought, faith, and conviction. What did Jesus say? It is done unto you as you believe. And belief means your habits of thinking, feeling, speaking, and acting. all of those four things aligned toward a specific result with persistency and consistency will demonstrate in your life. That's your power. That's what you're trying to use all the time, but most of the time we're unconscious. We're not tapped in. He goes on and says, we believe that the universe in which we live is a spiritual system and that the kingdom of God is ours and present within us now. We don't have to go to Tibet. I'm going to Tibet in August. I want you to know that. Why am I going to Tibet in August? Because they want Lee Wallach on Tibet. I'm going to be on the mountain. I'm going to be on Mount Kailash with Guruji Karunamaya, my friend Naranjan, and we're going to be doing a sacred trek around the mountain at 15,000 to 18,000 feet. It will take 3 days to do that trek. It's a process of leaving behind all that is not serving you and allowing yourself in the stillness of that walk to come in what it is that's divine within you is calling forth. So it is going to be very taxing. It's going to be difficult, what? To breathe. I've never been above 14,500 feet in Colorado. That was difficult. This is going to be, and it's cold up there. I was at REI yesterday, and there's all this summer stuff, and I'm looking at winter stuff. I'm looking at stuff that's going to keep my little tushy warm, because there's nothing worse when you're walking to have a cold tush. Anyway. I see that resonated with some more than others in the room, didn't it? And the idea is I'm going there because I want to come out of my set of parameters in which I'm living. I want to come out of my comfortableness. Do you see? In our comfortableness, Pink Floyd got this really great when they said, we become comfortably numb. So in order to really get a greater experience of life, we've got to step into something new so we can think something new, and then we build habits of thought based on that. So for me, I love adventure. So I'm going to be gone doing that type of adventure, and I'm going with my soul brother Naranjan, which is wonderful. Now, some of you are asking, why isn't Gene going with you? Well, Gene doesn't like to have a cold butt. And Gene also doesn't like if there's not 1 star after the hotel. So it is truly a very, very rustic thing. There are no really hotels where we're going. There are no bathroom facilities. There's nothing like this. This is nature. If you've ever done it, it scares the tar out of you. But once you're there and you let loose all these stupid inhibitions we've got, it's beautiful. So anyway, spiritual mind treatment. Meditation is for the purpose of inbreathing the essence of reality. Think about that. Meditation is about inbreathing the essence of oneness. It's closing our mind to all the chitter-chatter and breathing in and becoming one with all that is. It's going beyond our physical body, knowing that our physical body is only an aspect of who we are. And when we get into that deep meditation state, we lose our boundary. And we feel ourselves go into an infinite state. He goes on and says, treatment is for the purpose of using this essence, this divine reality, in definite constructive ways. He's very clear about that. He says, in definite and constructive ways. Meaning, a definite thing, something that you've determined. Constructive, meaning you're for more life, right? That's what life and God is about. It's about creating something that is a greater expression of life. A treatment to be effective must be spoken from a consciousness which knows itself to be the presence, the power, and the activity of God. So when you're speaking a treatment, you're not speaking it from the ego Lee, or the ego Sue, or the ego Mary, or the ego Bill. You're speaking it from the part that is Lee, that knows there is more to Lee than just what he feels, senses, and knows through his senses. There's an infinite aspect of Lee that's tapped into the infinite mind. The best way I can say this is that each of us is a drop within the ocean. Now, we're not all the ocean, but everything that we are is ocean. You get that? So when we can realize that everything that we are is God, we realize that the very power that created is available to us if we understand the formula of how to use it. Okay? The greater the conviction, the more power our word has. And when I say conviction, it means it becomes constant. It's unceasing. In other words, it's not 1 minute I'm whole, perfect, and I have perfect health in my body. Next minute you're saying, damn, my prostate's just 4 times the size today. No, those are contrary things. Do you get that? Go to the assisted living center where my father was at, and you will hear why those people are ill. Because all they're talking about is illness. What are their aches? What are their pains? They're not using the law for a constructive purpose. Are you getting that? They just don't know. And this is where most people are. We live unaware. We don't realize. We have been brainwashed to believe that our sources are outside of ourselves. Our sources are, we think the government's our source, we think the church is our source, we think the politicians are our source, we think our neighbors are our source, we think the family is our source. They are not our source. They are expressions of God that happen to be where we are in this moment interacting, but the source is the power of the infinite within us, and when we tap into that, we tap into our greatness. When we tap into that, there is no loneliness. One of the greatest causes of depression today, psychologists are finding out, is that people feel alone. And what do they do to not feel alone? They go and they drink a lot. They do a lot of drugs. They have lots of sex. They have people around them all the time. But there are those moments when you're lying in bed in the middle of the night and you can't sleep. And there's nowhere to turn. What do you focus on? Do you go in and you tap into that source? Do you tap into that power, into that presence? The interesting thing about the word Aum, a lot of people say Om, but it's not pronounced that way. It's pronounced Aum. A, U, M. Those are the 3 primordial sounds. And what it's basically doing in that sound, that sound is balancing the divine and the human. So if you're lying there and you're simply over in your mind going, do it with me right now, together. Again. One more time. Do you feel the shift? There's a difference in the energy because of that. There's something about sound that when you know how to use sound correctly, it has an impact on us. This is why the Eastern mystics teach mantras, because it's not about the meanings of the word, it's about the sounds of those words in Sanskrit that they've studied for thousands of years that they know have an impact on our mind, our body, and our emotions. When we give a treatment, we should feel that all the power there is in the universe is flowing through our word. So we tap into infinite mind. We know that there's an infinite power and presence. And then when we're giving, when we're making that declaration into the world, we know it is not the power of us. It's the power that created this cosmos that is creating. So there's nothing that's impossible. The only thing that happens there is, let me keep going. All treatment is for the purpose of stimulating an interior awareness. Do you get that? When you're praying, you're stimulating an interior awareness. The knowing within you, you're trying to bring it out. And if we're treating for physical and financial betterment for ourselves and someone else, inwardly we should become aware that the good we desire is already now in our lives. So if you want to be a millionaire, you act as if you were a millionaire. I use this one all the time. And this will fit into the workshop this afternoon real perfectly, because millionaires, what's the first thing a millionaire does? They save and invest. They do not spend first. Do you hear that? So if you are spending first and not saving first, you're not going to be a millionaire. It's just the law. That's why, I don't know what the percentage is, I'm going to say 98% of the people of this country will never be millionaires. because they're not saving. What is the statistic now? 90% of the people over 65 or over 60 have $10,000 of saving. How are you going to retire on $10,000 of saving? Why do they have only $10,000 of savings? Because they do not have the consciousness of a wealthy person. They've not been taught that, or they've not taken the time to learn that consciousness. It's the same consciousness if you want to be in a relationship. What does it feel like to be in a relationship that is loving, caring, accepting, joyful, easy, expanding? You've got to become that energetic before you can have that demonstrate in your life. And if you're in a relationship and it's not that way now, it could change as you become it, or that person will simply fall out of your life and you'll attract someone new. No good or bad, remember that. No judgment, no good or bad. All treatment is self-treatment. When you are praying, when you're doing spiritual mind treatment, the only thing you are treating is your mind to see the truth about what you're praying for. So if I'm praying for Elaine, I'm not praying that she receives my words. I am praying that I know for her what I'm treating for. I already know for Elaine that she has this most magnificent new house that she is building. I mean, this house has the energy, the vibration, everything that she's ever dreamed to have in a house. I know that this weekend they poured the foundation of that house. I already looked at the foundation and I saw the whole picture. I know it's done in her life. I know she will have that experience. Now, Elaine, because she is the subject of being treated for, she now has to accept that. Remember that. You cannot make something happen in someone's life. They have to be able to accept it. If they're not willing to accept it, they have the freedom to reject. Do you get that? But if they want your support, treating for others is powerful. Thoughts and things are not separate. They are identical. This is what we've got to get rid of, this separation of thoughts and things. If we're having a crazy thought, it's going to turn into some form of experience for us. If we keep thinking a crazy thought, it's going to have an experience. If you're in a relationship and you keep focusing, oh, the grass is greener over there, what do you think's going to happen? You're going to be wandering over to the green grass. It's not going to be good for the grass over on this side of the house. Could be very painful over in the green grass over there. Okay, to dwell upon lack is to create lack. To think of disease is to perpetrate it. To remain unhappy is to attract more unhappiness. Why? Whatever you focus on, you attract more of. It's so simple. Ernest Holmes said so clearly, turn away from the condition you are facing in your life to the opposite of it. In other words, don't put your attention on the condition. When you put your attention on the condition, you attract more of the condition. Put your attention on what you want. I put my attention on a world that works for everyone. That's my ultimate goal. How can this world work for everyone? Not work my way. See, we've got invested in this idea that everything has to be this way or that way. It can be liberal, it can be conservative, it can't be that. No, we have to focus our intention that we want a world that works for everyone because everyone is unique. Do you get that? It's fascinating if you ever go to India. And I was in, the biggest city I've ever been in was Chennai. And we were in Chennai and there's 22 million people in Chennai. Can you even imagine 22 million people? It's like ants crawling over each other, literally people crawling over each other. And you realize that every one of them is a whole, perfect, unique expression of the infinite. And you cannot judge them. You cannot say their lives are not as good as our lives, that their system is not as good as our system. Do you realize in India where they don't understand traffic signals? They do not understand line markers on the street. In a 4-lane road, 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes this way, there'll be 8 cars across. And they'll be honking, going with every which way. And they have this dance, and you think you're dead. The first few times you're there, you think you're dead. You are dead. There's no way. Their rate of traffic fatalities is less than ours in the United States. Because there's an energetic that happens and they function within that energetic. That's why you can't judge. Just because it's different, we can't judge it. We must deliberately turn away from that which hurts. We've covered that. The law of mind exists in a formless state and can only take the form which our thought gives us. In other words, the law, the creative power, it's in a formless state. It's out there. Then how we focus, we shape it. It's like you've got a piece of clay. Everyone has the same piece of clay. What you do with your fingers, with that clay, in your mind as you do it, you form that clay, and everyone in here, if I gave them the same instructions, would all have a different clay figure when they were done. That's your life. Same thing. We do not deny that there's a physical universe. What we do is we affirm that it is mind and form. Do you get that? So we're not denying that this is a physical universe. We're saying that this is mind in form, that mind created this form out of it, and mind can shape it and reshape it over and over and over again. The physical body exists that the soul may have function on this plane. So when my dad was alive, he had a body so that his soul could be in this planet at this time and experience what he desired to have experience. Now, what he chose to experience was not what I would have chosen. But I'm not my dad. I don't know what was going on in his mind. I have no right to judge how he expresses his life. I have zero right. I have zero right in how my wife expresses her life. I have zero right in how my children express their life. I only have the right into how I express. And if you embody that, think about that, that's very self-empowering, that's also very freeing. Because you are no longer judging others, and that's a lot of burden when we're judging others, because we're trying to elevate ourselves and put ourselves on a pedestal. No, we're all equal. We're just different. The creative principle can operate for us only by operating through our belief. We are the only ones who can limit our experience. Our belief limits us, or our belief sets us free. Our work rests entirely upon demonstration. We know we've done the work when we've got the physical demonstration in hand, when we've got the experience. Until we have the physical demonstration, our job is we continue to do spiritual mind treatment until we have it. See, until we have it, we haven't shifted our mind enough. If you want to be a millionaire, you've got to keep treating until you look at your bank account, you go, oh, my net worth is $1 million. Did you get that? I love the term net worth as opposed to having $1 million. You may have $1 million and you may have $1.5 million of debt. That means you have a net worth of minus $500,000. That's not it. That's what happens here. If you go around Frisco, Plano, and you look at all these houses, there's more debt out there than you can even imagine. And what is debt? Modern day slavery. You think about it, because you're bound by that debt. You are not free when we have debt. So when you think about all these teachers out there, Susie Orman, David Ramsey, they talk about getting out of debt. Why? Because it's freedom. That's where Gene and I have been for God knows. I think I met Mary 7 years ago, and it was 2 years prior to that. So for almost 10 years, Gene and I have been zero debt. So when I got out of the corporate world, thank you. When I got out of the corporate world, we had no debt. That made our lives easy. We could decide to do things we couldn't do if we had debt. But let me tell you, it meant saving a lot of money, not spending all of our money on things. I'm tapping into just the beginning of spiritual mind treatment. I'm tapping in. I'm trying to recondition your mind so that you realize you don't have to go outside anymore. You can start right where you are. You don't have to change 1 minute. You can start right now. All you have to do is start a tendency of thinking in a new direction. And when you start that tendency and you follow it with step, 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 you're now going to end up in your place, the place that you've chosen. But here's the key. Only you can take the steps. Only you can decide where you want to go. Remember this, it's your life. I invite you to live it to its fullness so that when you die, you can say, I did it my way. Let's pray.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wallach. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.